All right, so it's been a hot minute since we've had a video. That's on me for the most part. Me and Blake would schedule something, and then I'd forget, or we'd have something come up, and finally we got around to getting together like this, and to get going into this. Our next question that we're going to be looking at to this time around is, why are we tempted to do things that we know we shouldn't? It's one of the questions, a really good question, actually, that one of my kids asked. I'm not sure who. We kept it anonymous, no names on the questions, but really good question. I love questions like these. Make me do my homework, you know. So I'm going to start off with one perspective, and then I'm going to pass it over to Blake. But in order to answer this question of why are we tempted, we have to establish what God's relationship with us and sin is. So we need to answer the question of, we have this natural urge to pursue the things that are sinful. So the question is, did God create us with a desire to sin? From the beginning, did we have that built into us to pursue temptation, to pursue sin? And so let's just for sake of argument, assume that that is true, that we were created with this innate desire to pursue sin. If it is true, then he had to have created us with the ability to choose not to sin as well. And this idea is going to get repeated kind of here in a little bit, but if it's not much of a choice if you only have one option. In fact, it's not a choice if you only have one option, right? If you've only got one thing to pick, that you're not choosing anything. You're just going with what is there, right? But if God created us with the desire to sin, then we also have to have been created with an ability to choose to not to, right? So in other words, he did create us so that we had to sin. He gave us free will, right? He gave us the freedom to be able to make our own decisions, right? And so every person, every human is proving on a daily basis that he or she does in fact have the freedom to do or not to do different things, right? So we're not mindless robots, and we're going to look at this idea again here in a little bit. We're not puppets that are just doing what is programmed into us, right? We're not animals who live by their basic instincts and solely on their instincts, right? You can choose to watch this video or not. You can choose to listen to what we have to say or not, right? And no matter how intense the temptation that we feel is, other people that have gone through the same thing and succeeded has proved that we can resist it, right? Think about those things that you go through all the time that you really, really want to do, right? But there's that thing inside you that says, no, this isn't the right thing to do. And so you choose not to, right? For as often as we kind of give in to temptation, we also resist, right? And those moments of resistance proves that we're not created with simply a drive to sin, right? We have the ability to choose not to do so, right? So if God wanted us to sin and he had the power to cause us to sin, then why would he at all create us with the ability to choose not to? That would make sense, right? At the very beginning of time, God said that it's not he who wants sin to rule over us, right? So there in the beginning, he admits it. He says, this sin, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want you to have anything to do with it, right? I don't want it to rule over you, right? I don't want you to have anything to do with this. Sin has a desire to rule over us, right? These temptations to choose the bad things, choose the things that are away from God. It has a desire to rule over us. To give a little bit of a personification, but he created us with the ability to rule over it. He says that in Genesis 4:7. So even if God did create us with a desire to sin, it would be strange, right? That He would give us a way of being cleansed, to be forgiven of those sins, um, to have our slates wiped clean of that evil that we desire to engage in, of those shortcomings that we want to engage in. So it doesn't make any sense for Him to build us with a desire to sin, only to give us a way out of sin later on, right? If He wanted us to fail, then why would He do that? Why would He provide us with that? The gift of forgiveness is, in the biblical model, is an inconsistency with this idea, right? It's proof that God doesn't want us to sin. God doesn't have it in Him to desire us to sin. And we read throughout Scripture of just how God feels about it, right? And if He wanted us to sin, then that path for us to get away from the sin, right? Why on earth would He include? Why would He make it necessary for His own agonizing death? it makes no sense. Such a selfless act isn't something God would do if He wanted us to go to hell, right? If He wanted us to sin, to live in sin, right? But it is a behavior of someone that is merciful. It's a behavior of someone who wants to give us independence, to give us freedom of choice, right? He wouldn't do that give us that ability to choose if He had it in Him to just simply make us want to sin all the time. But to kind of finish up my segment, I have to point out kind of a little bit of what we talked about, but to kind of just drive it home that in order to choose God, we must also have the option to choose to go against God. Satan tempts us with things that we may want, things we may not necessarily have to have, but things that we are just super into that aren't going to be good for us, right? 1 John 2:16 says that we're tempted with the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, right? The things that look good, the things that feel good, the things that make us seem better than we are in our place in life, right? Those are the things that we're tempted with. We see that in the original story of the fall of man back in Genesis 3, right? The apple looked good. She felt the pride that, hey, this could make me like God, right? If I ate this. We even see that when Satan attempts to tempt Jesus in Matthew 4:1-11. He tempts Him with things that check these boxes. The bread, turn the stone into bread. That's the lust of the flesh. He's hungry after 40 days of fasting. So Satan tempts us with things that we want, right? Things that look so good to us, but he cannot force us to give in to those temptations, right? So in the same way that God cannot choose He chooses not to force us to love Him, Satan cannot force us to choose temptations. So we're not puppets. God will not make us, will not ever make us choose to love Him, right? If you're a parent, you're not going to force your children to love you, unless you're just a bad parent like that. You want your children to pick you. You want them to truly love you. If you're a husband, you want your wife to choose you. You want her to choose to love you. Otherwise, it's meaningless, right? Going through the motions is hurtful, right? If there's no meaning behind it. And in the same way, God's not going to force us to choose to love Him. He has to give us that option, that free will to choose sin, which, as hurtful as it is to Him, it hurts us more in the long run. So we either choose God or we choose sin. So I felt that we needed to kind of establish that number one, although we have it in us to choose sin, to be tempted, it's not because God has put that in us to always choose sin, right? He wants us to choose Him. He simply has allowed us the choice of Him or sin, right? So at that point, I'm going to kind of slide it over to you, Blake, to kind of pick up with your points.
So mine's going to run into a little bit of what Matt was saying, uh, and a few of these ideas are picked up from a philosopher named Dallas Willard. He's a uh, really smart guy, but he talks a lot about what temptation is, and it starts by going back to the story in Genesis about us being created in God's image. That's not the original start. It starts in Genesis 1, but leads up to this idea of humans being created in God's image. And what that carries with it, there's a lot of things packed into that, right? But a lot of that is working toward or working for that which is good. God creates a world that is good, and then humans are placed in dominion or ruling over to work toward that which is good. And so we're responsible for that. And so Matt mentioned this idea of the wheel. We have this wheel, and naturally a wheel is something that contemplates alternatives, deliberates, it thinks, it chooses between different areas, different aspects. um, it's about deliberation, thinking, contemplating, and then directly opposed to that you have desire, which is an immediate want or desire or need, something we see it and say, I want that or I need that. And it's immediate. There's no deliberation, there's no contemplation. It's in a moment. I need it. And the New Testament kind of picks up on this idea of desire. And sometimes it's translated lust, but sometimes that word could also be translated obsessive desire, not just a I need or I want, but an obsession of it drives my life, of this I need it, I want. It's this obsession of just feeling ourselves like a thirst that just can't be satisfied. And then of course completely counter to that is what Jesus says to the woman at the well, that she will never thirst again. Um, and that's what we're looking for. But will has the power to to write desire off, to push desire off. And and I don't think desire in itself is just a terrible thing. Like when we're born with desire, right? Infants, toddlers need uh, food. They need substance to stay alive. We need stuff to stay alive. It's part of being human. So there's some philosophies like Buddhism or Stoicism way back in Aristotle's day of this idea of they're trying to write desire off, just completely push it out. But we have to master this idea of desire, not let it control our lives, but let it come under direction of the will, to let our will influence our desire, to reign over our desires so that they're pointed in the right direction. And so that's kind of where we get this idea. But oftentimes we mix up these ideas of desire and love, right? We say I love something, and that's a good thing, and we think that we love pizza, or that we love uh, tacos. For me, I love Mexican. So, um, but something that Dallas Willard always says is, um, we don't really know what we're saying. We have to be careful when we say that, because uh, I can say that I love chocolate cake, but I don't really love chocolate cake. I want to eat chocolate cake. Um, but but love is being prepared to act for what is good, being prepared to preserve what is good. And that comes back to knowing God, trusting God, knowing that what God says is good, what He puts forward as good is true, that we can trust that, and that we can orient our lives toward that, not, like Matt was saying, away from this to our desires and our our lusts, but instead focusing our desires and our wants and our needs toward God and toward what He says is good.
Yeah. Um, So to kind of summarize, why are we tempted? It's because in the first place, um, we have to choose, right? We have to choose to do the right thing. I think we both kind of talked about that. You mentioned the will, right? Um, we, we're given the option between choosing God and doing the right thing, or not, because God loves us, right? He loves us, and He doesn't want to be a puppet master. He wants to have us be able to choose Him, right, as opposed to forcing us to do the right thing like anybody would do. And then simply because we have desires, right? We're tempted because we have desires. Um, we we want the things that we enjoy, but we have to make the decision: is it what is best for me right now? Is it what is the good option in the end? Is this going to bring me closer to God, or is it going to push me farther away from God? Is it going to help others? Is it going to push others down? Um, so I hope that between the two of us, we've really answered that question. Um, but man, sometimes it's hard to get through those moments of temptation. Sometimes it's just as quick as the blink of an eye, choosing to do the wrong thing. Um, but it is a choice, right? In the end, and although it seems like um, it seems like that's the wrong thing to give us that choice. In the end, it's because God is an all loving God, and He has to allow us to choose to do the wrong thing. Um, Blake, you have any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
I do not. I think I'm good.
Okay, this was a quicker one, but that's mostly because I changed my Zoom subscription and it only allows 30 minutes at a time.
Hmm.
So I hope this answers that question. It's definitely caused me to do a little bit more research in an area that I, you know, never really questioned myself. So I hadn't really thought to do the research into, like, why are we tempted? Obviously we are tempted, and obviously we need to fight temptations, but I hadn't really looked at the why of it all. So this was a good study for me. Um, so I hope that we can get together and tackle another question soon. If you do have any questions you'd like to be discussed, let us know. Shoot me a message. Shoot Blake a message. We'd be happy to mull it over. But till then, Blake, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah. Appreciate you.
All right, y'all have a good one.